You know what I think is the greatest injustice in life? The fact that you have to spend so much time studying. And this is in the best years, when you want to have fun with your friends, going on dates, go out, spend money on nice things. So now, instead of happily paying at the register for a fancy red bag, I have to sit in the principal's office and engage in this tedious parenting conversation. Hi, I'm Jill, and I once had to pretend to be poor so I wouldn't get kicked out of university. Miss Grace, would you like to take a break from your important business? Yes. I finished typing the message and looked up at the principal. The expression on his face did not bode well, so I put the phone away and tried to absorb the conversation. In this semester, I got terrible grades. Again. It's okay. It was like that before as well. Every time the director came to meet me and allowed me to continue studying further. Well, how to study. Attending classes, cursing every hour I spent on this stupid profession. I didn't want to be a lawyer at all, but my parents insisted that I continue their case. I've never understood parents who decide for a child what he or she will do for the rest of his or her life. But I loved my mom and dad very much, and I didn't want to upset them. Because if they got upset, the first thing they'll do is block my bank card. And then goodbye purses, dresses, and Starbucks coffee. Hello poverty and food from the university cafeteria that only poor people eat. Miss Grace, I just told you we're expelling you. What? I certainly didn't see that coming. I respect your parents very much, and more than once helped you pass from semester to semester, even with very bad grades. But if I do it again, I just lose credibility with the teachers. The principal wiped the sweat from his forehead. You study disgustingly. I doubt you're studying at all, Miss Grace. I am! I remembered that the best defense is attack. I come here every day. And sometimes I even go to the very first lectures, which, if you must know, start at 9 a.m. I know what time the first lectures start, Miss Grace. The man slammed his fist on the table, and I was instantly silent. I'm giving you one last chance. If you pass your exams next week with at least satisfactory, you will move on to the next semester. If not, get out of the university. That's it. Have a nice day. He didn't have to say it twice. I stormed out of the office. My boyfriend Nick, the bully and the object of adoration of all the girls, was already waiting for me at the door. What took you so long? Nick put his arm around my neck. Why are you so pale? What did the old geezer say to you? I'm getting expelled from the university. I tried my best not to cry. Really? That's cool. Me too. Now we can take a trip across the states with my car, just like we dreamed. What are you talking about, Nick? I broke free from his embrace. My parents won't survive if I get expelled. They'll kick me out of the house. I'll be out on the street. And I'd have to go to work. Just the thought of working made me shiver. I was ready to do anything so that this terrible scenario did not come true. And I didn't want to let my parents down. Meanwhile, Nick led me down the hall away from the principal's office. Come on, Jill, you'll think of something. You're smart. Smart is not the right word. Till now, I did not realize that it was necessary, at least sometimes, to do assignments and hand over essays. I had hoped that they would drag me till the graduation, just because my parents were the most respected lawyers in the state. I had to think of something. Hey, asshole, watch where you're going. Before I could turn my back, one of the nerds had already fallen into Nick's clutches. The guy in the huge glasses looked at the 2-meter bully, and it seems was already saying goodbye to life. Whatever. What kind of life is it? All the time for the books? Behind the books? Well, there it is. A nerd. There's my salvation. Let him go, Nick, I asked. But he's got his wooden head in my face. He's got to watch where he's going. Next time, he will. Let him go. I don't need a fight right now. I made my most unhappy face. It always worked on Nick. He was a bully, but he was always nice to me. Okay, live it up, Four Eyes. While Nick wasn't looking, I smiled encouragingly at the survivor. He faked a kind of smile in return. "Why are you smiling?" Nick barked, and the nerd vanished. The next day, all worked out for the best. Nick decided to blow off class. It was time to put my plan into action. I found Four Eyes in the cafeteria. He dined in the farthest corner, surrounded by the same excellent students. Redhead, tall, and nasty. Nasty got his nickname from me for his arrogant expression on his face. I would have made a simpler face if I were him. After I bought my coffee, I slipped to their table as quickly and inconspicuously as possible. "Hey guys, can I sit down?" The nerds stared at me like I was an angel descended from heaven, all except for Nasty, of course. He asked in a whisper, "Aren't you afraid of the prospect of repeating the fate of the anarchists in 1903? "What?" "John says you might be expelled from your community of elite students," Redheaded explained. I admitted that I didn't understand even after he'd explained it to me. And when I did, I made a miserable face, forced a tear out of myself, and sank tiredly into the chair next to the tall one. What society? They don't even want to know me now. "Jill!" At the wrong time, the voice of Becky, one of my school friends, sounded behind me. I turned around and gestured for her to get the hell out of here. Becky shrugged her shoulders in surprise, and I went back to my act. My lawyer parents lost 2 huge cases, and now our family business is falling apart. "Wow," Four Eyes sympathized. "Now we have no money to pay for another semester. I'm allowed to work part-time on campus and at least partially pay until my parents could work things out, but I need to get my grades up in order to do that." "That's a strange chain of logic," Nasty frowned. "John!" Redhead snapped at him. "I'm sorry about that. Maybe we can help." "Really? Could you?" I was amazed at the willingness of the nerds to help me. I thought I'd have to sing them songs about my plight for more than one day, but here? Naive fools. We agreed to meet in the library after class, and I happily flew out of the dining room, immediately colliding with Becky. "What was that all about?" My friend was very unhappy. "Jill, what would the guys say if they saw you with unwashed nerds?" There was an elite society of rich parents' kids at the university. I always liked being a part of it. You could talk with the girls about fashion, boyfriends, makeup, go shopping together, take pictures for Instagram. I didn't want to lose their favor. Yesterday, I saved one of them from Nick and came over to remind him that he now owes me for the rest of his life. That was it. Becky was fine with that answer, but she took an oath from me that I would never approach the nerds again. I swore, bravely. The chance of my girlfriend going into the library was 0. When I arrived at the meeting, the nerds were already waiting for me at one of the tables. I put in front of them a list of subjects in which it was necessary to pass at least one essay or make a report. "These are all of the subjects of the course. Do you study at all? Or are you just walking around dressed up?" Nasty was in his repertoire. I burst into tears instead of answering, frightening my new acquaintances and all of the students in the room. The librarian shushed us, and Four Eyes asked me to keep my sobs down. "I'll get some water." The tall stood up from his desk. "I'll get the books." Redhead took my list from the table. I struggled not to burst into laughter. By the end of the day, I had 2 great reports on my email that for sure were about to fix my grades. If you only knew how hard it was to hide my social status from nerds, and to hide the nerds themselves from my friends. A couple of times, I almost bumped into my new pimpled friends when I walked with my friends at lunch to a cafe or to the store. One by one, abstracts, papers, presentations, and essays ended up in my email. Each paper was about 50 pages long. I couldn't understand how they could prepare so much in such a short time. Every time I talked to Redhead, Four Eyes, Tall, and Nasty, I had to play the beggar. No new outfits, no cab rides. I had to forget the good coffee in their company and replaced my expensive phone with one from the dinosaurs era. I even tried to keep the conversation going about shops with 80% discounts and where to buy a cheaper pass. With your brains, guys, I'd be making millions by now. I somehow didn't hold back. "Too bad you don't have a brain," Nasty grumbled, glaring at me. In the meantime, the most important test awaited me, the oral exam in law. The nerds decided to prepare me properly and set up another meeting in the backyard of the university. When Redhead put a stack of tickets in front of me, my insides felt cold. I would never learn these by tomorrow. However, my new tutors promised that they would quickly train me. And indeed, in an hour, I could, albeit in general terms, answer a quarter of the tickets. Another 3 hours and you can safely hope for a satisfactory. The Four Eyes clapped his hands cheerfully and suddenly looked behind me and changed his face. I turned around and cried out in surprise. What the hell is going on here? Nick's eyes, appearing out of nowhere in the backyard, were bloodshot. Nick! I jumped up and tried to calm the boy down. I'll explain everything to you right now. We're preparing for the exam. So, you refused to go out with me tonight because you wanted to hang out with a bunch of pimply nerds? Which one are you going out with now? That smug freak? No, they're not. They're just helping me get my grades up and stay in school. I felt my boyfriend was about to start beating up John. Who needs them? Do you really think I would willingly hang out with these losers? I stopped in mid-sentence and looked back at the guys. They continued to sit on the grass, and in the eyes of each of them, even in the nasties, I read the pain of humiliation. After a moment, the nerds got up and, without saying a word, left. It was just me and Nick, and I'd never felt like such an asshole in my whole life. What I did was very sneaky. But on the other hand, I told the truth. If it wasn't for the grades, I never would have looked at the guys, who, meanwhile, immediately volunteered to help me in my trouble. I failed my last exam. However, thanks to the nerds, I passed all the others, and the director generously allowed me to stay at the university. Do you know what I did the next day? Picked up my papers. Of course, there was a huge scandal waiting for me at home, but I didn't want to go back to a profession I didn't like. And yes, I was ashamed of the nerds. Nick and I took a trip with his car, toured several states, and finally came home. I decided to do what I had always loved. I started sewing clothes. I thought back to my last day at university more and more. I was just about to leave when suddenly on the porch I was called by Nasty. He hesitated for a long time and then he said, "You're not so stupid, Jill." And from his lips, it sounded like a compliment. What do you think about lying for the sake of salvation? Should you lie if there's no other way out? Share your opinion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.